My name? Emily Davis. I'm 21, fresh out of culinary school, diving headfirst into the bustling world of my parents' coffee shop. It's a cozy corner of our town, brimming with regulars who have become like family. The shop? It's my parents' pride and joy. They've poured their hearts into it for years. Juggling work and studies wasn't easy, but it was rewarding. Every day was a whirlwind of coffee beans and pastry delights. Then, out of nowhere, Bob's call shattered the routine. Bob's voice crackled with urgency as he delivered the news. My wife had an accident. It sent a shiver down our spines, filling the air with concern. Though the specifics eluded us, the gravity of the situation was clear. Without hesitation, we agreed to care for his children while he tended to his wife at the hospital. They were still tender souls, craving comfort amidst the chaos. Bob arrived at the coffee shop with his children in tow, their faces a mix of confusion and worry. I opened my arms to them, offering solace in the familiar warmth of our shop. Hours later, another call came, this time with a lighter tone. While my sister-in-law was out of immediate danger, her injury required rest. Bob entrusted us with the care of his little ones a while longer, a responsibility we embraced without hesitation. I was caught in a quandary. Between running the coffee shop with my parents and being an employee there myself, juggling childcare every day seemed untenable. After much deliberation, my parents and I reached a compromise. I'd step in for about 2 weeks. Initially, I fretted over my ability to care for my nieces and nephew adequately, but they surprised me, swiftly melting any doubts with their easygoing demeanor. Even in moments of uncertainty, my mother's unwavering support buoyed me. As the weeks rolled by, our routine settled into a comfortable rhythm. Then, just as normalcy began to return, Bob's call shattered the peace once more. His words weighed heavily. My wife's still not herself. Would you mind helping out with the kids when she needs a hand? Caught off guard, I wrestled with the request, but the thought of my nieces and nephew needing care nudged me towards a decision. I can manage on occasion, I finally conceded. Soon enough, a message arrived from my sister-in-law. Could you watch the kids tomorrow? With a resigned nod, I replied, of course. The day my sister-in-law sought my aid, I embarked on a whirlwind of responsibilities. Mornings meant ferrying my nephews to kindergarten, followed by afternoons of tending to them at home. Mom popped in from time to time, offering her reassurance. Evenings saw us immersed in the bedtime routine, eagerly awaiting Bob's arrival. With a sigh of relief, I handed over dinner, courtesy of Mom, as Bob collected the children, grateful for the respite. Despite the exhaustion and doubts creeping in, abandoning Bob's family was never an option. Both Mom and I rallied, doing what we could to ease their burden. Then, like deja vu, another message from my sister-in-law arrived. Could you lend a hand with the kids again? The cycle repeated, just as before. In the morning, I set off to collect the children, making my way to the familiar grounds of the kindergarten. The teachers greeted me warmly, smoothing the drop-off process. With cheerful farewells, the boys bounded off to join their peers, leaving me to assist at the cafe my parents managed. Time flew by, and soon it was time to retrieve the children once more. Dad's reminder snapped me into action, and I hurriedly made my exit from the cafe. Arriving at the kindergarten, I found a small crowd already gathered. Amidst the chatter, a voice called out, Emily. I spun around to find myself face to face with a familiar figure from my school days. Ashley. The surprise painted across my features mirrored hers. It was an unexpected reunion indeed. Long time no see, she exclaimed, her smile infectious. It turned out her child was also enrolled at the same kindergarten as my nephews. Though eager to catch up, the bustling atmosphere wasn't conducive to lingering conversations. We swiftly exchanged contact details before parting ways. The following day brought a pleasant surprise. Ashley appeared at the cafe during my shift. Sensing the opportunity, my parents graciously encouraged us to take a breather from our duties and catch up when the rush subsided. I gladly seized the chance to reconnect with Ashley. Ashley's fondness for our cafe warmed my heart, yet her demeanor shifted suddenly, as if a weighty memory had resurfaced. By the way, I spotted your nephew's mom the other day, she disclosed, her tone serious. I was taken aback by the unexpected turn in conversation, simply nodding in response. Really? Yeah, I didn't approach her, but I've spoken to her before, so I'm certain it was her. But there's something. Ashley hesitated, searching for the right words. Intrigued, I encouraged her to continue. What she revealed left me stunned. and it seemed my mom had overheard Ashley's revelation. Our eyes locked in silent understanding. After Ashley departed, I turned to Mom, eager to hear her thoughts on the matter. "We'll keep an eye on things for a bit longer," Mom suggested, and I nodded in agreement. But then, out of the blue, my phone rang, flashing Bob's name. I couldn't answer right away, and by the time I noticed the missed calls, I was already calling him back. "What's going on?" I asked, confusion lacing my tone. What happened?" Bob's voice burned with restrained frustration. As he recounted the situation, anger simmered beneath his words. It turned out he'd returned home to retrieve something forgotten, only to find the kids alone in a supposedly empty house. Shock gripped me at the gravity of his story. Yet amidst it all, I couldn't shake the question. Why was I the target of his fury? My inquiry seemed to stoke Bob's anger even further. Bob's accusation hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me speechless. Yet amidst the shock, I found the strength to defend myself. "I understand your frustration, but your wife must have misunderstood," I countered. "I did receive her message, but I explained that I couldn't manage today. With Mom falling ill unexpectedly, we're short-staffed at the cafe. I simply couldn't leave." There was a brief silence on Bob's end before he questioned, but my wife mentioned something else. "She claims that every time she asks for your help with the kids, you demand payment. Is this true?" My voice rose in frustration mid-conversation. "What? That's not true. I've never once demanded payment for looking after the kids. Mom can vouch for that. If you're unsure, why not ask her?" My retort hung heavy in the air, leaving Bob speechless. Finally, he murmured, "So what's this about the money my wife mentioned?" "I honestly don't know. You should discuss it with her," I replied firmly. Bob's tone softened, wariness seeping through. "I'll do that," he conceded. Despite my reservations, I couldn't hold back any longer, not after hearing the ongoing conversation. I felt compelled to share what I'd learned from Ashley. Bob's response was heavy with exhaustion. "Let me mull it over," he sighed and ended the call. As the dust settled, concern for Bob nagged at me. I confided in Mom about our conversation, seeking solace in her presence. Days ticked by without a word from Bob, leaving us uneasy. Then, just when we thought the dust had settled, another message from Bob's wife arrived, requesting my help with the kids as usual. Initially, I hesitated. The recent revelations left a bitter taste in my mouth, making me question my willingness to continue helping. But Mom intervened. Mom advised me to reach out to Bob before responding to his wife, so I promptly forwarded the message to him. Within minutes, Bob's reply arrived. It was evident he had been grappling with his emotions, but my message seemed to provide some clarity. With Bob's feelings in mind, I responded to his wife with a simple okay and proceeded to collect the kids as usual. After dropping the children off at kindergarten, I made a crucial call. Hanging up, I steeled myself for what lay ahead. Everything was set in motion. Upon arriving at the cafe, I found Bob already there, his face etched with tension. It was a stark departure from his usual demeanor, leaving me uncertain of how to approach him. But before I could ponder further, Mom stepped forward. "I'll handle the kids," she assured Bob, her tone firm yet comforting. "You need to focus on resolving things with your wife. Emily, I'm trusting you." Bob's reaction to Mom's words was palpable as he nodded in acknowledgement. Returning the nod, I affirmed, "Okay, I'm on my way." We made our way to Bob's house together, a silent understanding passing between us. Pausing at the doorstep, Bob fumbled with his keys, his hands trembling slightly. I chose to overlook it, respecting his need for composure. Inside, the muffled voices of my sister-in-law and a few other women drifted through the air. Bob unlocked the door with shaky hands, pushing it open slowly as we entered with utmost care, hoping not to disturb the conversation. Their chatter became clearer as we ventured further into the house. "How's your foot holding up?" My sister-in-law's voice floated into the hallway, responding to a query. "It's getting better, nearly healed," came the reassuring reply. Oh, realization dawned on me. The odd sensation I'd been experiencing lately suddenly made sense. Briefly distracted, I quickly refocused, tuning back into my sister-in-law's conversation. "But once my foot's back to normal, Bob will start expecting me to pitch in more, and I won't get to relax like I do now." "Ah, yes, your sister-in-law and her parents have been a huge help with the kids, haven't they? You're really fortunate." "Absolutely," came the response, tinged with sarcasm. "It's a real stroke of luck to have Emily, the perpetually single and unemployed homebody, always at our beck and call." My sister-in-law's words ignited a simmering fury within me. I'd harbored suspicions of exploitation, but her callous attitude still caught me off guard. As anger surged through my veins, I could no longer contain it. With a burst of indignation, I flung open the door to the living room and strode in, my sister-in-law's startled expression meeting my gaze. I fixed her with a steely glare, the words tumbling from my lips like hot coals. Yes, I may not be married, and I may reside at home, but I'm far from idle. Our assistance was extended in good faith, believing you were genuinely in need, not to facilitate your leisure. I hadn't anticipated such a callous response from my sister-in-law. Instead of addressing her attitude, she seemed more concerned about my unexpected presence and how I gained entry into the house. "Why are you here? How did you get in?" she questioned, her tone devoid of warmth. A tap on my shoulder drew my attention, and I stepped back to reveal Bob standing behind me. As her gaze shifted to him, her eyes widened in surprise. Bob's voice, colder than mine, sliced through the tension. "I let us in. You've been deceiving me all along. You're despicable. You've been pocketing the money I gave you for your own use instead of giving it to Emily, haven't you?" My sister-in-law's complexion paled as Bob confronted her. Sensing the tension, I approached her friends, signaling that it was time to depart. With awkward expressions, they filed out of the room, leaving behind a palpable air of discomfort. Among them, Senior Ashley caught my eye as she left. She had encountered my sister-in-law before and seemed troubled by her recent behavior. Our unexpected encounter sparked a conversation, and Ashley offered her assistance in resolving the situation. Once the room emptied, my sister-in-law's tears began to flow as she opened up. In summary, she explained that since the birth of their second child, managing childcare had become increasingly challenging. Bob's demanding work schedule left her overwhelmed with household duties. When her injury occurred, the support from my mother and me had been a lifeline, easing her burden. Gradually, she found herself relying on our assistance. Regarding the money provided by Bob, she confessed that since her marriage, she had lacked personal finances. The temptation to use the funds for personal expenses became irresistible due to this financial strain. My sister-in-law's explanations didn't quite ring true for me. Sensing my skepticism, Bob suggested we call it a day. Taking his cue, I bid farewell and left their home. Arriving back home, I found my mother waiting anxiously. It appeared my dad was looking after my nephews, affording me the opportunity to confide in my mother about everything. Her expression turned thoughtful as I recounted the events. "I see. It sounds like a matter they need to sort out," she remarked, before turning her attention back to my nephews. I followed suit, joining them as they greeted me with wide smiles and called out, "Aunt Emily." Despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me, I made a conscious effort to mask them, focusing instead on engaging with my nephews. Several hours later, Bob returned home, announcing that he would spend the night at our parents' house. My mother, seemingly grasping Bob's intentions, simply nodded in acknowledgement. After tucking his children into bed, Bob sat down with our parents and me to explain his decision. "I won't pursue a divorce this time," he began, "but if the same mistakes are repeated, I'll have to reconsider. Emily, Mom, I'm sorry for the turmoil this has caused you both." "It's all right, Bob, but are you certain about this decision?" I inquired, concern evident in my voice. Bob nodded solemnly. "Yes, after speaking with my wife, I realized I bear some responsibility as well. We've agreed to give our marriage another chance." Curious about Bob's revelation, I prodded him for clarification. He confessed, "I've been consumed by work, neglecting my wife's needs, and leaving the parenting solely to her. It's clear now that I've placed undue stress on her and been unfair to our children. I should have prioritized spending quality time with them." As Bob spoke, a whirlwind of emotions swept through me. Yet Mom's response brought clarity to the situation. "I understand," she said, her tone thoughtful. "While forgiving may be challenging from a personal standpoint, as a wife and mother, I empathize with the complexities of your decision. If this is what you've both agreed upon, I won't stand in your way. Just ensure you keep your private matters private this time." Bob nodded in acknowledgement, a flicker of apprehension crossing his face as he bit his lip. Since then, neither Bob nor my sister-in-law have made any requests of me. In fact, I haven't crossed paths with her at all. It's likely uncomfortable for her to confront me, and while Dad's frustration simmers over her lack of apology, I find solace in the absence of awkward encounters. When I shared my reluctance with Bob, he assured me, "I understand. I'll do my best to minimize any chance encounters between you two." Thanks to his efforts, my routine gradually regained its familiar rhythm. At the chime of the doorbell, I turned, only to find Bob standing there with my nephews in tow. Releasing Bob's hand, the kids darted toward me, their voices ringing out joyfully, calling my name. "Aunt Emily." My nephews' cheerful voices rang out as they rushed into my arms. With a warm smile, I embraced them, relishing their affection. As the kids chatted with my parents over slices of cake, Bob leaned in, his voice low and earnest. He confided that while my sister-in-law was remorseful, she harbored reservations about the children's fondness for me, preferring they avoid seeing me. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of resentment towards her. After all, she had brought this upon herself. Though I knew there might come a time when I have to confront her again, for now, the wounds of the past remained fresh. It seemed unlikely that I would soon forget what my sister-in-law had put me through.